Welcome back to Chat About It, Don't Shout About It with Rachel. And today we are talking about Why Ncuti Gatwa's Accent Matters in Doctor Who by Mariana Salem. Now, I'm not going to be talking in the reserved pronunciation for the BBC for much longer because, well, why would I? But let's quickly address this article and why I find this article appalling. And it's not necessarily all to do with something that Ncuti Gatwa said, but let's have a look. Rwandan Scottish actor and beloved sex education alumni Ncuti Gatwa is now playing the Doctor in Doctor Who, and he's doing it with his natural accent. Despite having a time-travelling alien on the run, the Doctor has almost always looked and sounded like a white person from the UK. Co-created by Sydney Newman and Cecile Weber, with the help of Donald Wilson, Doctor Who was conceived for the BBC as a family-friendly science fiction series, one that would use time travel to teach the audiences about British history and science, with the show's protagonist as a white eccentric guide. Like every other programme on the BBC, in the 60s, Doctor Who actors were directed to speak in RP, received pronunciation, also known as BBC Voice. RP was also called the Queen's English, and is characterised by an upper-class British accent used by the wealthy and educated. For decades, it was the only accent spoken on the BBC. And the reason why that was is because, well, way back when, if you had the money, you could get in with the BBC, you could get into acting. Well, that's way back when, if you had the money. Naturally, this is somewhat unofficially prioritising RP accent-shaped whose voices were heard on TV and radio in the UK as much as any other institutional bias. An accent so closely tied to wealth, limited opportunities for working class, non-white... Right, okay, just pull that up there. Back in the 60s, skin colour, there wasn't as many Black people, Asian people, whatever, around back then. So it was hardly surprising that they weren't gracing our screens, but people really don't think that time plays a factor here, apparently. And regional British presenters and actors in the first half of the 20th century, so it was unthinkable that a character like the Doctor, an almost knowing expert on history and science, wouldn't sound posh as hell. Not until 2005, when Christopher Eccleston portrayed the Doctor, did the character speak in a non-RP accent. Eccleston used his Mancunian accent for the character and fought hard to do so with the Doctor Who producers at the time. Right, can I just be clear on something here? This person clearly hasn't done any fact-checking. I would say that Doctors 1 to 4 were 100% very heavy on the RP because of the time. Then Doctors 5 and 6 were still RP, but they weren't as strong as perhaps Doctors 1 to 4 were. By the time you get to Sylvester McCoy, you've got Scottish. And he did it in his native Scottish accent, and still to this day, he performs it in his Scottish accent. How on earth did he win past the producers with that one? Maybe they were more open to the Scottish actor having an accent. And then Paul McGann is actually Liverpudlian, but has pretty much his whole career used RP, and he talks that way in real life as well. So, you know, you can blame acting school, I guess, if you would like to. But Eccleston obviously then went to his Mancunian accent. David Tennant, on the other hand, uses an estuary accent. Obviously, we go to Matt Smith, and then on to Peter Capaldi, and then we have a Scottish accent back in play. And I believe, if I've got this correct, Jodie actually uses her West Yorkshire accent, if you count Jodie as a doctor. Now, Ncuti Gatwa has told the Radio Times in 2018, I want to move away from the RP, received pronunciation, accent for the first time. So this is someone who's clearly not done their research here on the Doctor, because we shouldn't be making a correlation between intellect and accent, although that still needs addressing. He's right. times have moved on pretty much consistently from Sylvester McCoy, minus Paul McGann and maybe Matt Smith. The role hasn't really been that RP at all since then. They have had other accents, and I'm an actress. I trained in musical theatre. I don't talk with my native accent. You probably don't realise that, because if I was talking with my native accent, I'd be talking more like that. And I was asked when I was studying to pull back my accent, not necessarily to do RP, but to just pull it back, go a bit more sort of neutral. So you can still hear sort of undertones of my accent, but I don't use my accent anymore. Nowadays, they do try to strive away from that, but we still, as actors and actresses, still have to know how to do the RP. To say that Doctor Who has never moved away from it, that's really someone who either is just peddling that because they've been told to peddle that, or they haven't actually done the background check on the actual program itself. So when I read that was what Ncuti had said in 2018, I then went and watched an interview with him because I wanted to hear his natural accent. So I watched him on the Graham Norton show, and I think he was talking about sex education or something. He spoke with, in my opinion, quite a strong but clear Rwandan accent. Then I went and checked the giggle, because I don't really focus on accents really in Doctor Who. It's just because of this article that I ended up having a look at it. I went and watched the clip of the giggle where he sort of first reappears, and I've seen a couple of other clips since. And you know what? If you want me to be honest with you, I personally don't think he is using his full accent. That I could hear. He's definitely got a hint of an accent there, but I think it is pulled back a little bit, if you want me to be honest with you. Comparing it to what I've seen in interviews and what I saw on the screen, I think it's been pulled back. I haven't got a problem with him using his Rwandan accent. If he wants to use it, go for your life. So long as it's clear, everybody can understand what you're saying, you should be able to use whatever accent you want. When Doctor Who was created 60 years ago, it wasn't created to be a vision of the then presented or even future. It wasn't created with actors like Gatwa in mind. Yeah, quite possibly. You never know. And they didn't even know back then how long it would be going on for. I mean, it was because of this genius idea of regeneration that it went on for as long as it did, because William Hartnell had to leave because he wasn't very well. If anything, Doctor Who was conceived to be a project of a particular set of British ideals. Ideals which assured viewers that in all space and time there was always a British white person around who knows better than anyone. Okay, now I'm going to call this. This is really, other than, talking about the accent stuff, this is really what made me make this video overall. People say that racism only works towards Black people. To me, I think this has great hints of racism right here. Racism works across board. Ideals which assure viewers that in all of time and space there's always a white person around who knows better than everyone. When I was a kid, I didn't even think about that. That never crossed my mind. I was like, oh, it's Doctor Number 7. Look at him taking on Davros. When Ncuti Gatwa was announced as the Doctor, I didn't even think about skin colour. I actually thought, if you want me to be honest, that they would have done a black man as the Doctor before even considering doing a female Doctor. For all the show's potential for change, the series wouldn't even permit its an alien main character to sound Scottish for 50 years. That is wrong. Sylvester McCoy was the first Doctor to speak without an RP accent. He spoke in Scottish. It was about 30-ish years. Even with just the 10 minutes of screen time he's had so far represents a long-awaited radical shift in how Doctor Who projects its heroic intelligence protagonist. For the first time, that idea doesn't belong to a white person, but a black, queer, Scottish immigrant. For the first time, the Doctor speaks to millions of us who grew up with and around the blended ethnic accents rather than to the British upper crust. With his lovely voice, Ncuti Gatwa finally breaks Doctor Who free from problematic idea that it was always inherently pushed that the most intelligent person in any room is a narrow reflection of whiteness, British, and wealth. Some people might say that an accent isn't that big of a deal, but an accent is a voice, and the kind of voices we amplify are always going to matter. It's the blatant racism in this article as well that gets me the most. Okay. Anyway, let me know what you think. I don't think Shruti Gatwa's accent is that big of a deal, but let me know what you think. And what do you think about the racism? Chat about it, don't chat about it. Thank you.